we want to know first is you guys, how it formed and how you deal with each other as siblings on a regular, confined basis.
Oh, yes. Okay. It started early. So we shared one bedroom until we were 9, 10, and 11. We're 3 and 3 years. Okay. And we were homeschooled. So it was sort of like...
Wait, back up. Your parents had you 9, 10, so you like boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
On purpose.
Later in life, I've realized that not so much. I remember, especially after I got married, I was like, Mom, it's been a fun joke to talk about the stork, but how do I not get myself in this situation?
Wow.
Yes.
We reaped the rewards for that. Mom was pregnant for 3 years straight, basically. But now, I mean, and I think any of my friends that have like 3 years or more between them, there's such a marked difference in the relationship because we were in high school together all the same time. We went to college together.
We each always had a class shared. You know, like me and Taylor were teachers' aides at the same time. We just like walk around together.
And that was good.
We love.
Oh yeah.
Especially, so we were homeschooled halfway, went straight to public school. So I feel like we were almost kind of like a safe place for each other when we were just thrown into the lion's den of the youth, you know.
Everybody knows CAIN is like color coordinated, goofy, siblings CAIN, but there's a deeper side to the three of us that, you know, we grew up following Jesus, and it's so cool that we're still all doing that now, and we've all walked our own path. And so it was just, I think I had seen one episode of The Chosen, and my husband, he's always just like, will you please watch this? And normally it's just like terrible documentaries about bears and just things. And it's like, okay, sure. So I sat down one night, and you know that feeling in your chest. It's like burning, where you're just like, God, he is doing something right now. And so I couldn't even, I cry every episode when I watch it. I think it was just so cool to see the Jesus that we grew up learning about. You were like, that's it. When you could, and I'm sure you guys feel that way too. You see him on the screen. The whole thing, you're like, this is it. This is what I hoped it would be like. So watched one of those episodes, and then I just started playing on my guitar on my front porch, and you do these voice memos, and they sound terrible, but it was just go tell the world about me. That's all I could get. Mm-hmm. So then we take it to write with our friends.
It was kind of amazing. So we really wanted to like hit the ground running. So we had written 60 songs in about 60 days. Like we were just writing all the time. And we had our first meeting with the label, and they're like, I don't think we have it. And at that point, we hadn't written Rise Up. They were right. It wasn't.
They were right.
They were right. But I felt so defeated. Like, how do you make a hit song? So we came into that with the idea of like, we don't know how to write a hit song. We're not. Let's give up on trying to write a hit song. Okay. And Taylor brought in the idea of what if we talked about the Great Commission, but from our friend Jesus, talking to his friends, the disciples. And it was just such a fun idea to sit there and be like, what would it be like for someone to have heavenly knowledge, being God, but also being a full person, saying goodbye to these people that they love, and for these disciples to have, I don't know, they became in that moment like we are now. They didn't have a person to follow. They had a promise to hang on to. And they had to believe that what they saw was real and that he was coming back.
Well, and I feel like everybody likes to talk about the humanity of Jesus and then to assume that his humanity ended there. But it's true, like, if they say our high priest was touched with every affliction, you're not going to tell me that in that moment he was just excited to leave, to head to heaven, and to just trust that this would all play out. He spent everything. He poured out every drop of his blood for this. And then this is the last thing he's going to say to them. And think about how important that is. And for us to just assume like, well, this was now the God Jesus, and he's just going to, like Uncle Sam, like go tell the world. No, we felt like in that moment, maybe there was a quiver in his voice. Maybe there was this moment where Jesus is like, boys, please tell me that you saw it, that you understood what we just did.
It really is a blessing when you think about the process of what it is that you guys do when you write these songs. And some of them may come easier than others. Yeah. Clearly this one was a journey, but it sounds like once you landed on where we're going to go.
Yeah, does it start with a line? Does it start with a thought? Does it start with whoa, that instrumental was really cool?
And can you liken it to something that maybe nobody who's experienced would be able to go, oh, I get it now.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a good point.
Well, I think what we try to do is you have to start somewhere. It is so odd that you meet together with people and you just have nothing. And so you're like, how do we create something? So the fact that she came in with let's take a new look at this passage of scripture. And so then I was pretty pumped. I came up with the idea for Goodbye Is Not the End. And I'm like, okay, well, do we follow certain people? Or no, do we just stay right here in this one passage of scripture? I know that Logan, he took it a step away and he started thinking about the bridge, and then I feel like you walked out and came back with the bridge.
We were kind of running out of time in the studio, and so we were like, well, let's start recording and let's just get away. And so, when four cars pull up to a four-way stop at the same time and everybody's looking at kind of who's going to go first, songwriting to me feels a little bit like that, where it's like there's a synergy that happens because inevitably everybody pulls up and you wait. Somebody goes first and everybody knows where to go after that, right? It's like there is this sort of thing where everybody has great ideas and everybody, has gifts and callings. But if you'll let it, the song will write itself. Like somebody is going to really catch the vision and step out. And it's kind of a fight to not fight for your own spot, your own line, there's the removal of pride or whatever.
Yeah,
where it's like if you can catch on to who's leading the dance, then everybody dances better.
You guys probably experience it, but like your chemistry together, it's almost like you can kind of take credit for it, but there's like a gift that like God's put you guys together, and you feel that you feed off of each other, and it builds, and you're like, how did we come up with like, this is a really cool segment, or this was like, that worked really well, and you didn't even plan it before necessarily. So I wonder if in everybody's careers, I don't know, it's just funny, like God gives you that, because it's kind of like a spur of the moment, and it may never hit again. It's like for the commission, I don't know if we could have met together on another day and had the same,
Well,
no, totally.
I mean, even the other two guys that were in the room writing with us, we all had to come into the room with the same, you got to be in the same place in your lives. You got to, everybody came into the room that day just emotionally in the right spot, where it was like, you know what, let's make something that means something. And if it never gets played on the radio or whatever, then that's fine, because that's not always the case. You know what I mean? Sometimes, for better or worse, people have their own ambitions, their own dreams on the line. And I think that sometimes you're too precious with music. That's when we talk to new artists now, as if we're not new artists. But if somebody asks me, maybe a high school kid or somebody asks me about music, that is always my first thing, is you got to write, and you got to write your bad songs to write your good songs. Because all of the best writers that I've ever encountered have written at such volume that they're not so precious with every single line. And it's how you end up with Let It Be.
So the life lesson for everybody, and you mentioned in everybody's career, would be not take yourself too seriously.
Don't take yourself too seriously. And I heard this in a podcast once, but it was an actor talking about auditioning for parts. And he said on his way to the audition, in his mind, he would build what would happen to his life if he got this part. Oh, well, then I get this job, and then and by the end, before he does the audition, he's got a $10 million house and a happy family. He said, I built this upside down pyramid on top of this one audition. How was I supposed to be myself in that moment? There's so much pressure. And I think maybe that's the universal in any walk of life. If you build your entire life upon what will happen if you succeed in this one spot, there's no way you can be your honest self. There's no way you can have the willingness to keep your hands open if that's not where God has you, because there's so much pressure, like you said. So I think that.
And there's the pride element too. I think that, like he was saying with the four-way stop, is that sometimes I fear, like all your insecurities are like, am I contributing enough to this song? And sometimes if you're so worried about that, you'll keep fighting for your idea instead of like submitting. So I really felt like there's a mutual submission going on. And that happens in the best rights of like, I'm just going to keep throwing out ideas. And if the group doesn't love it, I'm not going to keep fighting for my own way. I'll have another idea,
Do you feel that's harder or easier because you're siblings?
We noticed some problems when we started working together you just become so much more insecure when you start singing and you feel that people are listening in, or you feel like your ideas aren't being heard, or I feel like and when you are siblings and you love each other, you can be so honest with each other. there's a time where we were fighting every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like even over the past 2 years, we've found ways to fight that aren't injuring, you know?
Yeah.
And
Can you write a book?
Yeah.
I know.
It's so important. I think what you're saying is so valid because we do feel shy about sharing what we're really going through, but then that's not healing.
Yeah.
So then
it's
we're not going
true.
to say anything. That's not going to
Yes.
help.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've learned some little phrases too.
Yeah,
you know?
we've learned how to communicate. I think too, there is a feeling that you can feel come onto you, and if you'll recognize it as an attack from the enemy or as stress, those fights sputter and die before they start, because whatever insecurity I'm feeling, whatever
feeling
pressure,
my
it's almost like
insecurity,
we will almost start to fight, and it's like, hey, are we just nervous about tonight's show? Like, are we feeling pressure to impress somebody, and that's why we're fighting with each other? Mm-hmm. That, and then I think myself included, everybody likes to talk about craving criticism, but nobody likes to be criticized.
No.
And I think that if I can stay open to the fact that this is coming from a place of love, from someone who loves me and who wants all of us to succeed, you do just have to kind of count to 10 and kind of just like grit your teeth and bear it, because if it's not coming from a place of love, or if it's not true, it won't hold up. But I have to hear the two voices in the room and be willing to be voted 2-1.
And can I ask about the dynamic of male-female?
Yeah.
Because we, as women, I don't know about you, now this varies with women, but because I want to get it resolved now. That's the way I work. Now my husband needs to I'm going to go to my man cave, which he doesn't have one. Maybe that's why he's mad.
That's probably the root of a lot of the problems.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that you and I are pretty similar, and our spouses are actually really similar. We need to hash it out. We're going to get it done now. But not everybody works that way. Do you all have a similar vibe, or it's kind of?
Well, I think sometimes we have learned is that there's about a time limit. If we find that we're making the same points, that we kind of have to take a step away, because at this point, I feel like the last fight that we had, I realized at the end of it that I was like being such a stickler about wanting to be right that I was like really forcing this issue, and I realized like, okay, I need to take a step back to realize like I'm just mad and I want to be right. And so we could go on for hours. So you really do have to take that pause, take a little self-reflection.
I mean,
Like literally go to your corners.
We're like constantly around people. We don't have our own tour bus right now. So everybody's watching how we treat each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would say that's great accountability, and like we'll whisper fight a couple times. It's just like
we act like people don't know, but if you hear someone like aggressively whispering, you know they're fighting. Like,
It's like we're at sound check, so they can hear it over the sound system, like you think you're whispering. But
you are so stupid. But I will say, like the dynamics, like strong personality, we're really similar. So I feel like we can we just probably have the same ideas, but we're just like clashing a little bit. Madison's like the mediator.
I end up
Every
being
now
the
and then,
swing
when
vote,
they get into it, I'm like, I sit in the corner. I'm just like, I love it. I love it. Yes.
It's rare, and it is increasingly rare that things escalate to any sort of personal level as well. I think that's something that
we love each other.
Yeah.
We really do.
evident.
Like we really care about each other.
and a lot of the insecurity and stuff is rooted, and this all sounds so like too good to be true, but I care so much about what they think of me.
Sure.
And so
You're the baby brother.
if somebody is correcting me on how I'm singing or behaving or whatever, initially I'm mad that I let them down. And maybe that's not maybe that's exclusive to me, but I'm upset that I let someone down. And then that triggers worse behavior sometimes. And I think us learning that we approach each other more like this, I don't care. This isn't, you didn't let me down. I'm just letting you know. Like we're able to attack the lie first and then be honest, which helps a ton. But
we learned a little trick. Like I feel like if we were to write a book, something that we say to each other often is like, if you're gonna care early. So there's truly so much that we do as a band, like between at the time, booking our own travel, like preparing for shows, preparing our merch,
Social media. There's
like
just so much
there's
stuff.
so much stuff that we each have to spearhead different things. And so what we learned is like, if someone asks you your opinion and you don't weigh in early, don't come in at the end and have a huge opinion. So it's like if you do care and you can care and speak into it, but care early.
Because Madison is excellent with booking travel, for example. But on an early flight, everybody's upset that we're at the airport. Nobody got sleep. And, well, nobody cared to book it. Nobody cared to do the work. Nobody, right? We just want to complain because we're sleepy. But that hurts her feelings. That doesn't incentivize her to book travel. So it's like, if you're going to care early.
Yeah.
And if not,
that's great life advice.
Yeah.
grin and bear it.